welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan and I have an endless TBR. And today all we're doing is adding to that TBR because what I have is a book haul. This is a mix of vendors, however they are all coming into my permanent collection. They are not coming from the library. And so we will find some room on my shelves at the end of this video to find a place to put them. After the move and getting my bookshelves in order, I realized, oh, I have room for some new books, which is very exciting and also very dangerous. So I allowed myself to head to the Barnes & Noble sale annex in relatively close proximity to me and perused their shelves in the back to find some new gems to add to my collection. To start off, I have a very shiny cover. This is Christopher Moore's Fool. I tend to pick up Christopher Moore as I see him. He's one of my partner's favorite authors, and we read the third book in this sort of Shakespearean satirical, humorous type series that Christopher Moore has written. This is the first book in that series. I saw it at a good price, so I brought it home to see if my partner would like to read this. And I apologize for any glare you may experience. Next is a historical fiction novel. This is Lindsay Fay's The Gods of Gotham. This takes place in 1845 in New York City and features an Irish immigrant who is looking to be a part of the brand new, newly instated New York City Police Department. I find that Lindsay Fay has a really interesting way of incorporating historical context into her novels. We previously read The Paragon Hotel by Lindsay Fay for a book club, which takes place in the Pacific Northwest in I think later in the 19th century than this particular book, but deals with very interesting areas of society that you wouldn't necessarily see in a more like mainstream white historical fiction novel, and I appreciate the added context and conversation in her books. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. Over the past couple of years, I've read a bunch of Mindy McGinnis books as published by Catherine Teagan teen books, and I find her writing style and her way of describing just about anything to be incredibly affecting for me. So I found The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis and snatched that right up. This is sort of a contemporary, maybe mystery. There are some really dark characters. The blurb starts off by saying Alex Kraft knows how to kill someone and she doesn't feel bad about it. So that's our starting point before we even open to the first page. The cover is incredibly striking. We have different terms for the female of given species here. So a female fox is a vixen, a female cat is a queen, a female dog you probably know, and it's crossed out on the cover, so I won't share that here. And as I mentioned, Mindy McGinnis has become pretty much a favorite author of mine, so I'd like to see what earlier books from her might contain. This one was not from the sale annex, but I picked it up because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a copy for an upcoming book club. When I saw it on the shelf, I decided to just bring it home with me at that time. That is Across a Field of Starlight by Blue Delaconte. I apologize for mispronunciation of names. I will be sure to research that before I have to say it the next time. I don't know anything about this. It's a graphic novel. It features a diverse cast of characters in which Lou and Fasten are from different worlds and separate solar systems, but there's something that keeps them in each other's orbit. I think there's a little bit of maybe budding romance in here. It's a teen title, so coming of age is likely involved. And as I said, it's for a book club, so I'll be reading it shortly. I apparently was allowing myself to peruse the new shelves as well because I picked up the concluding volume in a series that, I haven't started yet, but I have the first two. So I picked up the third book, The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl by Theodora Goss. The first book in this series is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, obviously also by Theodora Goss. This features Mary Jekyll, alone and penniless following her parents' death, who quickly finds herself drawn into the secrets of her father's mysterious past. This is a fantastical historical fiction account of the daughters of notorious science fiction / horror novels of the 19th century. Think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Island of Dr. Moreau, the story of Frankenstein and his monster, and let's see, Sherlock Holmes makes an appearance. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this series. I think the audiobooks are available through my library. I now have the full series, so I have no excuse but to actually read them. I found a nonfiction book that I've been interested in reading for a very long time. I have previously owned a copy of this book, but it had some damage. I probably picked it up at like a library book sale somewhere. That is 3 Cups of Tea, One Man's Mission to Promote Peace, One School at a Time. This is written by Greg Mortensen and David Oliver Relin. Nonfiction tends to give you a synopsis itself in the subtitle. And to give you a more rounded synopsis, I'm just going to read from the back. In 1993, a mountaineer named Greg Mortensen drifted into an impoverished Pakistan village in the Karakoram Mountains after a failed attempt to climb K2. Moved by the inhabitants' kindness, he promised to return and build a school. 3 Cups of Tea is the story of that promise and its extraordinary outcome. Over the next decade, Mortensen built not just 1, but 55 schools, especially for girls, in the forbidden terrain that gave birth to the Taliban. His story is at once a riveting adventure and a testament to the power of the humanitarian spirit. And the tagline reads, "The astonishing, uplifting story of a real-life Indiana Jones and his remarkable humanitarian campaign in the Taliban's backyard." So I hope that it gives a well-rounded account of what the sorts of implications that this would have in this particular community. And it's probably realistically both good and bad because, you know, somebody coming in and just messing with your way of life can be quite traumatic. But obviously giving girls the chance to go to school to learn to read, as we know from other accounts, such as I Am Malala, and her humanitarian efforts on her own people's behalf, this is an important topic of discussion. So I'm here to give it a try. Next, I picked up a second book from an author that I have not yet read, the first book that I own, but again, it was a good price, so I picked up Melmoth by Sarah Perry. This is the author of The Essex Serpent, which I picked up when it was all over sort of the literary side of BookTube in 2016, I think, and have not yet read it. But she does sort of dark Gothic type stories. I think she's got another one coming out soon, surrounding the shutdowns from 2020. And while it has deckled edges, and we know that I don't particularly like those, I am willing to give this a shot. The brief blurb says, "For centuries, a mysterious dark-robed figure has roamed the globe, searching for those whose complicity and cowardice have fed into the rapids of history's darkest waters. And now, in Sarah Perry's breathtaking follow-up to The Essex Serpent, it is heading in our direction." I don't think it's a direct sequel or related in any way to The Essex Serpent. I think it just has to, you know, go along with this dark and gloomy folklore and maybe urban legend, historical ideas, and I was intrigued enough to pick it up from this sale annex. Here's another book I've been meaning to read for a while. It's a pretty short book. It's also translated. This is Penance by Kene Minato and translated by Philip Gabriel. Maybe more well-known is Minato's Confessions, and this is the other book that has been translated to English. Very again, another dark story, more in a contemporary setting. And this one is about a group of young girls who are approached by a stranger, and they cannot know that the encounter will haunt them for the rest of their lives. So, very interesting premise here. I think we get sort of dual timelines, and maybe even more than dual. I think we get like present day, and then we go back to each of the girls' experiences in the past when this stranger approaches them, and what happens in those events in the past that then travel to the present day. And the last book from Barnes & Noble is an old school Nora Roberts. This is The Search. This is apparently the first publication in paperback. I don't know what it's about because we have lovely Nora and her dogs on the back of the mass market paperback. So let's see if I can find out. I think this is one of her sort of romantic suspense novels. The synopsis tells me that to most people, Fiona Bristow seems to have an idyllic life, a quaint house on an island off Seattle's coast, a thriving dog training school, and a challenging volunteer job performing canine search and rescue, not to mention her 3 intensely loyal labs. I guess the picture makes sense. But Fiona got to this point by surviving a nightmare. Several years ago, Fiona was the only survivor of the Red Scarf Killer, who shot and killed Fiona's cop fiance and his canine partner. So I liked the idea of it taking place on the West Coast. I know sometimes she writes from the southeastern coastal areas of the United States. So I thought this might be a different atmosphere. And again, so it's more of the romantic suspense type genre. I thought I might be more intrigued by this particular storyline. I think I paid maybe $1 for this copy. So if I don't like it, it's not the end of the world. Moving on, I placed an order from East City Bookshop. I needed to pick up the next selection for the Wine and Angst book club. It turns out my library does have a couple of copies in the system, but they weren't available when I needed to place this order in order to get the book in time for me to read before the meeting. So I now own a copy of You Truly Assumed by Layla Sabrine. This is obviously a diverse perspective from my own. I'm very interested in getting into this. We get 3 different experiences of Black Muslim girls after a terrorist attack rocks the country and anti-Islamic sentiment stirs. As you can see, each of the characters sort of has their own individual experience of being Black and Muslim. I'm assuming we're in the United States, and it'll be interesting to see how these 3 characters interact with probably each other as well as their immediate surroundings. And I think these types of books lend themselves well to a discussion where we can incorporate our own experiences into the reading of the text. The other book that I picked up from East City Bookshop is another conclusion of a series that I am not yet caught up on, but that's okay because I made progress in my last reading vlog. This is the 4th and final book in the Wayfarer series, The Galaxy and the Ground Within, all by Becky Chambers. I call The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet one of my favorite books, and I recently read A Closed and Common Orbit, which is book number 2. I already owned book 3, and this is actually my second copy of book 4, because I didn't realize I already owned it. So that's why you don't let me bookshop by myself. I will keep this one. I'll probably donate, or, I might give Panga Books a try if I can get someone to take the second copy of this book off of my hands. And now I'm out of room on my display, so you probably won't be able to see this. Finally, I do have 2 books, and I ordered 2 books in order to get free shipping from a particular retailer that I don't particularly love supporting, but sometimes they're the only way to get independently published titles. To that end, I selected Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. I've been hearing a lot about this. This is a novella that's a little over 100 pages. This is about the lengths a mother will go to assuage her grief after the death of her child. So it'll be heavy stuff, but I've heard really good things about the writing, and this was the way that I could get my hands on it. And the real reason for my order was to pick up the debut adult fantasy novel by Jean Menzies, also known as Jean's Bookish Thoughts here on YouTube. I'll throw her down in the description. This is, as I said, her debut adult fantasy, The Flames of Albion. It is a cozy, whimsical fantasy featuring a magical school, and dragon companions is what I know about this. She had posted something on her community page that popped up in my feed. It was her birthday coming up, so wanted to support her in this, and the cover design itself is just, again, beautiful and whimsical, and I'm looking forward to reading this next month for a readathon. Those are all the books I picked up recently. Some of them on a whim, others a little bit more planned or influenced by other people, and a couple of them for book clubs that are coming up, so I will certainly be reading those in due course. If you have read any of these and want to give me very brief thoughts, no spoilers please, that would be greatly appreciated. If you've made it this far into the video, I'd love to see a book stack emoji, because I've now got stacks of books that I have to put away. If you like what you see, I'd love for you to hit that like and subscribe buttons. Leave me a comment with anything that you'd like to share, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!